Hi, I'm Dr. Emily Dierix, and today we're going to talk about hypnosis. Hypnosis is a very useful tool to harness the unconscious mind. And where I'm going to go into the history and the why it works. So if you're not interested in the explanation and the why, you can just go to the next video in which I'm going to give the instructions of how to do it on yourself, on how to do self-hypnosis sessions and harness the power of your unconscious mind. But the history of hypnosis starts formally with Freud. Freud was the one that came up with the concept of the unconscious mind, and he said that the basic principles in the unconscious mind were eros and thanatos. Eros is the principle of pleasure, root word of the word erotic. Everything that's pleasurable and that brings us to life is in this instinct that we have. So everything that we need to survive is pleasurable to us. For example, eating, drinking water, sleeping, being safe, being in relationship to others. All of these enhance life and are therefore pleasurable to us, and we tend to seek it as biological entities. And thanatos is the destructive principle. This is where all the negative emotions come, and this is the urge to destroy, to be violent, to defend ourselves with violence, and also the self-destructive attitudes are in the thanatos principle. So these two principles are parts of our unconscious mind, and we won't get rid of them. We have to work with them. And we all have them. And they're basic biological principles that we find in all of nature. Now, Freud thought that the unconscious mind was only the home of the biological basic impulses of life and death, of eros and thanatos. After Freud came Jung. Carl Jung thought that the unconscious mind was much more than that it was a reservoir of knowledge, and he came up with the concept of the collective unconscious and the archetypes. The archetypes are these values of beauty, of justice, of all these things that are beyond human instinct and that all cultures have. So he thought that we can all access this collective unconscious as a species, and there lies all these concepts that are beyond our experience and beyond our instincts. And this was the basic riff between Freud and Jung, that Jung wanted to explore all these transcendental principles, concepts, ways of thinking, and experiences. And, well, Freud didn't. And after the riff between Carl Jung and Freud, Jung became one of the most sought-after psychologists of the past century. So we were going to stick with Jung and the idea that the unconscious mind is much more than an instinctual values, and that it has knowledge that we can access. And then after Jung came Milton Erickson. Now, my master's is in Ericksonian psychotherapy, so I tend to rely more on Erickson. What Erickson added to all this mix was the concept that we also have tools in the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind keeps all the memories of everything that has happened to us throughout our lives. Absolutely everything. Here's how we learn to talk, to walk, to clean ourselves, to eat. Everything we have learned, everything we have surpassed, the memory of that is in the unconscious mind. And we can use these tools that we have already used before to use them in the future, to achieve things in the future. And that's what he started to harness, and he made hypnosis a very fast and easy thing, because he realized that well, we know we have two hemispheres, but the hemisphere that rules the unconscious mind is the right hemisphere of the brain. The left one is the logical one, the one that speaks languages, the one that does mathematics, and the one that thinks in a linear manner. It knows time, and it can be very logical. It is very logical. The other hemisphere, the right hemisphere of the brain, is creative. It has no concept of time, no language, and it doesn't understand language the way that the left hemisphere does. So what it understands is symbols and feelings and images. So the way to harness the right hemisphere, the creative mind, the unconscious, is through symbols, images, and feelings. Now, if we put all these things together, in order to get the unconscious mind on board with our plans, we need to harness the pleasure principle. We need to harness it with images and feelings, and we need to go for the tools that we already have. So, the way we're going to do this is through visualization, because that's the language that our mind understands, that our right brain understands. Okay, so the principle of pleasure is whatever we want to achieve in life has to be anchored to a positive feeling. So we're going to use anchors as prompts to go into the positive feeling, and the positive feeling associated with what we want is what's going to motivate us to actually reach it. And our unconscious mind will cooperate with us. If we don't get the unconscious mind on board, it will lay obstacles in our way, because sometimes we think logically that something is good for us, but we don't harness the right brain, and the unconscious mind is not on board with the project, and it feels that whatever we're trying to achieve with the logical mind is a threat to it. And if it feels threatened, it will put all kinds of obstacles and it will sabotage our plans. For example, for me, this happens a lot with dieting. My conscious mind knows when I'm a little bit overweight that I have to go on a diet. But if I don't get my unconscious mind on board, my unconscious mind feels like we're going into famine, and it will place every single obstacle in my way. And it will win. Why will it win? Because the unconscious mind never rests. The conscious mind does, and they alternate control of the body between them all day. So a hypnotic trance, this is also Milton Erickson and his discovery, that hypnotic trance is a very natural thing that we do all the time. Every time we're daydreaming, every time we're concentrating so much on a task that it's fun and pleasurable for us, that time just dissolves and we lose track of time, we are in a hypnotic trance. And this is when the right brain is taking control of the body. And it's in these moments that we sabotage our own plans. I talked about dieting, but it works in every situation. For example, if you need to study for an exam and you start procrastinating, that's because your unconscious mind is not on board with the project, and it will distract you every time it has control over you. It's in control of your body. So that's why things become very complicated for us and very difficult, and it feels like a fight inside us, like we have to fight ourselves in order to be able to accomplish what we want, and it becomes a superhuman effort. But when you get your unconscious mind on board and it's motivated through a positive feeling to achieve that, then there is no more fight, and both hemispheres of the brain, both minds, are acting as a team for you, for what you want to achieve. And then it becomes effortless and you do it. That's the basic point. You get to do it, and it's not like doing it and then undoing it, and like we do with the times we sabotage ourselves. So, pleasure principle, tools, And another very important part is the wise part. This is a new addition, and this is a teacher that I studied with. Her name is Teresa Robles, and she added this part of calling on your wise part, which is you. It's basically you, but it's the higher consciousness you. It's the part that's united with the knowledge of the universe. And you can also call it your unconscious mind if you don't like that concept. Whatever you want to call it, or call it your higher self or your soul or even your angel, whatever you want to call that part of you that knows better. And we're going to call on this part to help us get the unconscious mind on board. Imagine it as an over person, like a watcher that's on top of us. So we have the two hemispheres, the logical mind and the unconscious mind, and the wise part will get them to work together. So you can visualize it like that. It's still you, so it's nothing that you're calling into your energy field. It's you, but you in your higher sense. Okay, so pleasure principle, tools, and wise part. So these are the three principles we're going to use in our self-hypnosis sessions. And in the next video, I'm going to give you the instructions of how to do this, and you can do this with anything you want. We're going to use anger because we're going to see emotions and how we can change them, but you can use the same format for anything you want. And it's the way to get your own conscious mind on board with your projects. So let's do it.